looking at a lot of the cultural stuff. I just like the fact that they actually go to some of these places and do that stuff. So, anyways, so I believe this is where we were. Is that about right? We finished this. Did we talk about economics? Okay. So let's talk economics for just a second. Actually, be more in a second. We're going to talk about some kind of basic principles in economics. So the first thing you have to understand about anything when we talk about economics are these two concepts. First is supply. Have you guys studied economics?
Supply is demand.
Yeah, there you go.
Mr. Mudd,
Yeah.
what region is it?
We're still in the north. Wait, no. This is eastern.
Oh,
Sorry, beg
so
pardon.
we did like one thing wrong.
So supply and demand. Okay, what does that mean? What is supply? How much is something there? Sure, okay. So demand is what?
How many people want it?
Yeah, people want it. It's not just necessarily how many people want it. It's it can be measured slightly differently than that, but you get the idea. Okay. What does this mean? You guys recognize this part? Does that look familiar to you guys at all? Well, not exactly. You're seeing the relationship there. I'm not necessarily implying one thing or other because I haven't set the numbers on it yet. But you do have the right idea. We're measuring supply as it relates to demand. Basically, wherever they cross. All right, guys, heads up before we go. We are going down the iron stairs towards 4th Street. Towards 4th Street. All right, I will meet you there. Pause. You guys aren't childish anymore. So back to this point. Hey, I've had worse writing class than you guys. I'm just saying. This isn't like a challenge. I'm not saying you guys will work in this thing. It's all good. Okay, so we're back. So anyways, this point right here. Have you guys dealt with graphs like this at all? Okay. What this is price. Basically, supply, as it continues up and there's more of something, as long as demand doesn't move, that price is going to go down. Essentially, the more of something you have, they have to lower the price to make demand move. Same thing is inversely true. If there's less of something and demand stays the same, because it's rare, it becomes more expensive. Now, both of these, of course, can move depending on situations, and these fluctuations will cause prices to constantly change. So, you've probably seen this in your everyday life. You'll see one product that becomes incredibly popular, and for a short time, because there's not enough of them being made or whatever, stuff like that, they are very expensive. For instance, whenever Apple comes up with a new iPhone or a new iPad or another device of some fashion, you have limited supply. So someone will go and wait in line in front of the store so they can get one, and if they don't, well, all they have to do is check eBay. Because what happens, some people will go to the store, buy it, and then immediately put it up on sale on eBay for 4 times what it's selling for in the Apple store. Yes?
I found out that, like, if you return something, even if it's in, like, really good condition, it can get really sold.
That's not true. Great example of that. If you go on Apple, on their website, you can find, they're called refurbished devices. For instance, like let's say you buy a brand new iPad and the screen is broken, doesn't work, or it's cracked or something like that, right? You take it back, the store goes, oops, our bad, and we exchange it for the proper one. They then send that back to Apple, who looks at it and says, let's find out what's wrong with it. They fix it. Now they can't sell it for the original price. You're right there. They can't sell that, obviously, but they can sell it refurbished for a little bit less. It's not hugely less. You're not getting like amazing deals. Like normally $500, you're getting it for $2. But I mean, you can buy it for $400. You know, they're making less money off of it, but they're still making a profit, and you can get a cheaper device. Of course, there's this thing in our heads that go, what if this messed up? And you know, if it broke once, why would it break again? Personally, I don't really worry too much about it. I've bought a lot of refurb products over the years because I figure they give it a once over, they're going to find any mistakes the second time around. But I can see where people might be a little nervous about it. But that's kind of, again, fits a little differently into this whole idea of supply and demand. Actually, no, it doesn't really. It just means that the demand is less for something. The supply has stayed the same, so lower price. Anyways, why this matters is the market is constantly fluctuating. It's kind of hard to predict what's going to happen from one time to the next. We don't know what the next big product is going to be until it's the next big product. There's whole people's jobs. It's like their whole job revolves around trying to figure this out and to invest wisely so they can make money whenever the product explodes or what have you. And so, really, what this means is every item you buy, you are actually determining the price of it. That's a market. That's what it is. We are the market. We buy and sell all the time. And I might be asking, what am I exactly selling? What do you sell? What do we sell on the market? You got to think outside the box. We're not actually selling anything per se, unless you're in business. Most people sell labor. They sell their work. They basically are saying, I'll work for you, but you have to pay me a certain amount of money. That's a monetary exchange. That's part of the market. It's the labor market. Yeah. And then you, in turn, spend that money you make on goods and services, and the whole world goes round and round and round. But you will not spend more on something than you have to. As a general rule of thumb, you're going to pay as little as possible. Makes sense, right? Why would you pay more for something if you didn't have to? What it means is that we are basically constantly policing our own businesses. If a business, for instance, is charging too much for a product, won't buy it, or fewer people will buy it. Some people just don't really care how much they spend on whatever, but most people are going to be like, I'm not paying $50 for a roll, toilet paper, Yeah.
There was this
I don't need that story. I'm moving on. Sorry, I don't need to shut you down there, but it's like, okay, if it's a story, I'm going to move on. But, so here's the thing. This is called a market economy, okay? So again, we determine the prices, we determine production. You've probably seen instances where a car company produces a whole bunch of a car, they're like, yeah, this is going to be popular, people are going to buy this, and it doesn't sell. And it's just sitting on car lots. And car lots will have these blowout sales. We got to make room for the next generation of cars, and they mark them way, 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 way down just to try to get rid of them. Yes? You've seen that happen before, okay? That is an example of us basically punishing a company that makes a stupid idea, The other thing is companies are constantly trying to vie with each other for your business. There's a few ways they can do this. The first is companies get a reputation for whether their products are quality or whether they're crap. You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about, yeah? You hear of cars that you don't buy those if you can help it, versus cars that are quality cars or whatever the product happens to be. Another way is they can make it cheap. Like, yeah, it's not necessarily tasty, but you're going to buy it because it's 10 cents, which is ridiculous. The other one is advertising, which brings me to my quote of the day.
Shane Company.
Yeah, you guys were all like, well, not all of you, but a lot of you guys were just saying the entire commercial, yes? Because you can't drive for 15 minutes without hearing it a dozen times. Now, here's the funny thing about repetition. Repetition is a great way to learn. If you just say the thing that you're trying to learn over and over and over and over and over, and you get the idea. You will eventually, it'll be stuck in your head. Annoyance is actually a great way of making you remember something. I don't know if anyone watches Jeopardy, but for a long time it was Activon. Apply directly to the forehead, Activon. Apply directly to the forehead, Activon. That was their commercial. That was it. Sure. Is it effective? Let me tell you a little story. Back when I was deciding to get married, get engaged, I had no idea where to buy a ring. It's not like you take a class that says, how'd you get married? Step 1. You know, you just kind of have to figure this stuff out. So it's like, man, I gotta go buy an engagement ring. What are the jewelry stores around Louisville? Yeah, Jared wasn't a thing when I got married, so I guess that dates me a little bit. Basically, there was Shaneco. That's the only one I knew about because you hear that commercial all the time. So guess where I went? Actually, Rogers. Because I happened to be in the mall at the time they had a sale. Boom! Well, the rest of that book, actually, my wedding band is from Shane Company. So yes, we did go to Shane Company in the long run. But that's just how it is. You know, it's an effective tool. Of the 5-6 friends of mine that recently have been married, all 6 had at least their wedding bands from Shane Company. I think 3 or 4 of them had their wedding rings and the engagement ring from Shane Company. So they got you know, it's effective, right? So this is a market economy. So you understand how this works, yes? Okay, a planned or command economy is a little different. Instead of relying on the market to dictate things, it's the government will say, you company, you will produce this many of this thing and this is what you will charge. Done. And that's how it is. That's what you have to do. Okay. This is what communist governments do. Now, the idea behind it actually makes a little bit of sense. It's trying to increase efficiency. The idea here is not wasting as much time and resources guys who might be incompetent. You have one person who's taking care of everything. The problem is it doesn't actually work really well. It's inefficient in the long run because you have somebody trying to predict what's going to happen the next 5 years, you know, and that doesn't really work out. So ultimately, command economies, like we saw in the Soviet Union, don't work really, really well. They were inefficient. They had a lot of outdated technology because of it. And so when Eastern Europe shifted at the call of the Soviet Union to a market economy, they were really struggling kind of hard. Like, this is the poorest region in Europe because of that. After World War II, Eastern Europe was more or less under the control of the Soviet Union. Some countries were literally made part of the Soviet Union, others were satellite states. And basically the Soviet Union just like took anything that they wanted from those states. And what's kind of funny is the city of Berlin was literally split in half this way, with one part being controlled by America, Britain, France, all these places. The Western democracies, the market economies, and then the eastern side of Berlin was controlled by the Russians. It might actually be controlled by the other half. And so what happened was the part of Berlin controlled by the Russians, by the Soviet Union, was crap. It fell into disrepair because the Russians basically stole everything from there. Whereas we were very nervous of all of Europe falling to communism because there was that going on. So we made Berlin like, we're going to build you up. We pumped a ton of money into them and basically decided that the NATO, of course, is what it's called, the NATO National Treaty Organization, was very, very nice. And so what happened is that a lot of people from one side of Berlin, from the Soviet side, kept wanting to move to the American side of things because it was so much nicer there. There was a lot more opportunities, a lot more money, things like that. This was hugely embarrassing to the Soviet Union. So what do? They fix the problem? No, they built a wall straight to the middle of the city and told you can't go across. That's serious, the Berlin Wall. So, you know, that was awesome and really ineffective, as you see. But ultimately, that's kind of the differences there. So we're going to this, yes, fantastic. Moving on. I spent a lot of time explaining one basic concept on this slide. The elevator. Why is, oh, that's right. Yes, there is. It is on mostly region. In fact, I think it's podium. Yes, yes, yes. So basically, they've been undergoing a process called modernization, trying to update technology, some more successfully than others. Germany is in pretty good shape ever since they were unified, although to this day, Eastern Germany tends to be a little bit more kind of hard up for cash. Nevertheless, a lot of the rest of Eastern Europe is still kind of having some problems. Add to the ethnic and religious tensions that have been going on for years. You see, this area is in the Balkans, the mountain range that separates sort of the European side of Russia and the Asian side of Russia. And there's a lot of different ethnicities there. Slavs, Turks, the names are, a lot of ethnics. And they don't get along. There's also a lot of different religions there. And so for years, they were kind of under the control of a bigger empire. They were under the control of the Eastern Roman Empire. Then, once that fell apart, it was under the control of the Ottoman Empire. After that fell apart, it was under the control of the Soviet Union. Once the Soviet Union collapsed, there was nobody there. And suddenly, everybody is kind of eyeballing everybody else and do this all-pervasive attitude of nationalism, which basically is intense pride in one's cultural background. They started killing each other and resulted in ethnic cleansing, which was really terrible and bad. Basically, there's a lot of hostility in this area to this day, and it's still a major problem as Europe tries to deal with these differences. Now, generally speaking, Eastern Europe is more of a traditional culture, so to say, please. For instance, they tend to focus on more traditional forms of artistic expression. Let's talk art for a second. What is art? Hard question, isn't it?
Anything you make, a way to express it.
I mean, it's hard, isn't it? I mean, all those things are true. You know, it could be music, it could be a painting, it could be furniture, it could be a blanket. You know, anything with visual design can be art. Now, there are those who would argue that point and say, no, art is special because of whatever reasons they can contrive. But ultimately, the idea of design is to make something pleasing, you know? And the fact of the matter is, we've been doing this for centuries, you know? If you look at the weaving that folks have done in various countries around the world, the independent patterns woven into everything from shirts to tapestries, telling a specific story or a different design, you know, all these things evolve independently from each other. And it's one of the oldest art forms that we still practice, you know. They tend to be famous for these more traditional folk art forms of expression, rather than something that would be like, you know, a Renaissance painting or something like that. But it is kind of fascinating to see how that works out. It is, as we point out, less urbanized than the rest of Europe, meaning that it's a little bit more rural. Other than that, you know, that's pretty much it for region guys. Easy peasy. I really want to start the video. Let's say no. We're going to hold off on that for now. So again, this section is pretty much what you can expect on the quiz tomorrow. Don't forget that you guys have the BBC article due, so don't forget to do that. And then, of course, you got the maps now, so those will be next week. That's it, guys. Just chillax.